Greetings to all in the love and light of the one infinite creator. My name is Jonathan Tong, and I am facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found on the list of study groups on the L&L Research website shown on your screen. We can also be found on Facebook if you search for Seattle Law of One study group. We do meet on Zooms twice a week. We meet on Tuesdays from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, as well as Saturdays from 8 to 10 in the morning Pacific time. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our Facebook group or to join our Zoom meetings. Anyone who is interested and available is welcome to join. We do also have a YouTube channel. If you look for Seattle Law of One Study Group on YouTube, that is where we keep recordings of previous Q&A sessions with Jim, as well as Austin and Trish and Gary from the L&L Research Channeling team. It's a great way to look up recordings of previous sessions and teachings. If you click on any one of the videos, you'll see a list of topics and timestamps below, and I encourage you to take a look there and browse and see if there's anything of interest to you. Otherwise, we are blessed again to be joined by Mr. Jim McCarty for some informal conversation and questions and answers about the Law of One and how to apply it in our daily lives. How are you doing today, Jim?
Doing very well. It's a beautiful day here in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, you mentioned in the beginning, you've had some cold weather there.
Yeah, we did.
Is your garden doing okay? Flowers doing okay?
Well, the annuals they got frozen, so I'm cleaning those up. The perennials, there's still a few of those out there, but not too many. And tree leaves are dropping, so I'm cleaning up tree leaves. And so that's my outside work here for probably the next month.
If your Camelot journal is any indication, the outside work never ends. It goes pretty much year round. And always a joy to read. I know I have a number of questions wanted to get to, and I did want to start off by asking about the war in the Middle East and the group prayer for peace that started. I know there is L&L Research is initiating a group prayer meditation to help alleviate some of the pain and suffering with the war in the Middle East and everywhere else as well. Did you want to share a little bit with our viewers how that works?
Well, it began last Thursday. Gary created a very inspirational process. It takes about 10 minutes. You can do it anytime during the day. It doesn't have to be exactly at, one time or another. And we're sending love and light and healing energies to everybody in the conflict. Soldiers, civilians, Israelis, Palestinians, everybody, Hamas, to try to accentuate the love that is in every moment and every person. And hopefully that love will surface in some way that we can begin to see a backing off of the hostilities. So, like I say, it'll go on until next Saturday. And people can continue for as long as you like if you wish. We thought as a group effort, though, it would be good to do it for 10 days. So that's our hope.
Appreciate that. It's a beautiful thing. I did want to let folks know that if you go to the L&L Research webpage, like the one that I showed at the very beginning of this recording, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see an announcement about that visualization and get some more details and some guidelines on it, and highly recommend it. Otherwise, while we're on the subject, I did actually want to bring up a quo session on this very subject, share this with folks, and maybe Jim, if you have any reflections to share on it as well, would love to hear it. Otherwise, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share here again. This is from the channeling archives at the L&L Research page, and this was from a session back in 2007. And the question was basically asking if there are so many people praying for peace in the Middle East, why is there still war going on since it continues to go and has been going for a long time? I'm going to skip through and just read a couple passages from this. And here at some point, Quo says, "My brother, the prayers, hopes, and dreams of those who visualize peace in the Middle East, and indeed in all regions of your war-torn globe, are very effectual in a certain way. They are not designed to intervene in the worldly affairs of entities who do not wish to become aware of the love and light of the one infinite creator. They are designed to alert the consciousness of the universe, of all creation, and especially of those forces of unconditional love who are the objects of those prayers, to the fact that there is distress among the nations, distress in people's hearts, and a yearning for peace, beauty, truth, and life lived in compassion, comradeship, and contentment. These prayers are having the effect of awakening the planet at the grassroots level of ordinary people. Many are awakening at this time because of the fervent prayers of all those who offer their deepest beseechments to the one infinite creator in their own ways. Metaphysically speaking, your planet is in far better shape to meet the time of harvest than it was 30 or 40 years ago because of efforts within religious circles and within circles that are not religious, but rather spiritual or metaphysical, such as this group. All is well, metaphysically speaking. There is no prayer that is not heard by the one infinite creator. I'm going to skip down a little bit farther. They say, we ask that you not be overly concerned with the state of the outer workings of your planet. We ask that your concern be to pray that these leaders may be forgiven, for they do not know what they are doing. They will come to dust, as all dragons must. Even now they are dying. The energy of the old world is weakening, and its hold upon the hearts and the minds of ordinary people, such as are gathered in the circle of seeking, is lessening every day. Nothing is as it seems when looked at from a metaphysical point of view. Therefore, when thinking of the Middle East and its issues, may your concern be to affirm and confirm that there is peace, love, and compassion that is stronger than the dragon which is thrashing its tail at this time. For dragons shall die, but those values of love, unity, hope, faith, and joy shall live forever. As you affirm and confirm these values in yourself, you are creating the basis for that which is to come. And in so doing, you are also creating for yourself the ability to live through the shift into fourth density that is upon you at this time. As you look at the Middle East, know that all is well. And if you wish to explore the details of the politics of violence and aggression that make the front pages red with blood, do this studying and this research not to despair, but to know ever more clearly the nature of the world that you came to incarnation to love. And my brother, we ask that you will now allow no judgment to enter into this love. Praise and bless those who seem to be persecuting and hurting the common man and woman in these difficult and challenging times that you now experience. Let your mind and your heart rest in peace. The outer world shall not hear you, but all those in the unseen realms who vibrate in unconditional love do hear you and are called to your prayers to amplify them and to strengthen them. You are doing the good work of compassion and love as you offer these simple prayers and visualizations in order to maximize your ability to serve in this way. We recommend that, as this group does, you set aside time each day, if only just a moment, to visualize peace, harmony, and understanding, not only in the Middle East, but in all portions of your far-flung globe. We assure you that you are having a wonderful effect on the inner planes. Allow the rest to fall away, for empires rise and fall. The spiritual evolution moves along without regard to the illusion created by power and breath. Such a beautiful passage, and I felt that was worth sharing for folks who have that in their hearts and minds at this time. May I ask, Jim, do you remember that session at all? I mean, you guys have done over 1,700 sessions. I'm surprised if you remember anything, especially from 2007. Do you remember that session at all?
No, I don't. I've been working with the Quo channelings here for over a month, going back to the beginning in January 12th of 1986. And I'm learning a lot of things again that I don't remember at all. But a few of them I remember. That's not one of them.
That's nice. Yeah, such a beautiful thing. I have really been enjoying reading your revisits of those channeling sessions. And there was, in fact, one from about 3 weeks ago that I wanted to ask you later in the session, perhaps after we get through the questions in the chat window. Otherwise, yeah, hey, I do see a number of questions in the chat window, and I know Harrison has one lined up. Harrison, would you like to unmute your mic and ask?
Hey,
Great.
Jim. Pleasure to meet you in person. I actually just to touch base first. I actually you and I have corresponded. I was the last student doing Carla's course, the Law of One course with the IMU, and
Vancouver, British Columbia.
that's me. Yeah, hi. Pleased to meet you in person. Um, so my question is about shadow work. What's commonly called shadow work these days? I hear it all the time. My my daughter has asked me to talk to her about it and stuff, and I just wanted your opinion of what that might be. For example, I know that Ra talks about catalyst and the use of catalyst in the mind body spirit complex, and how catalyst is kind of like a positive and negative catalyst is subjective. A negative catalyst may be positive, a positive catalyst may be negative. But I just, like, in terms of working with your shadow, I was wondering if you could kind of elaborate your opinion on that concept, and how that might apply to the teachings of the Confederation. If you have an opinion on it at all.
Well, I have an opinion that I got basically from Carla. And what she said for the shadow side was that each of us has a shadow side in some respect that is composed of difficult memories from our childhood that we weren't able to deal with in the childhood. And so they stay with us. If we can't use the catalyst that comes our way, it stays with us until one day or another we do use it. So the shadow side, Carla suggested, was sometimes a very powerful source of information and energy, that if you could incorporate that shadow side into your own life in a conscious way through meditation or contemplation or prayer, and ask it to come with you, to be with you, and to reveal itself to you, then you could begin to work with that catalyst. And the one thing that the shadow side has is a great deal of dedication, you might say. It's there, and it's going to be felt until something is done with it. And if something is not done with it, it could well be that it manifests in a way that is difficulties in your life, that you're not able to accept other people. Maybe you're not able to accept yourself. So everybody has something of that nature in them, not necessarily a shadow that they're not working with, but something that they have pre-incarnatively programmed that will provide a means by which lessons that they want to learn can be learned. However, many lessons that are learned are difficult in nature. They involve suffering and traumatic experiences. And this suffering, if we can go through it and process it, Ross suggested in the balancing exercises that whatever suffering you were feeling, you could see the polar opposite, and then accept yourself for having both of those as part of yourself and the creator. Eventually, when you're able to do that, you become more and more the creator. As you are knowing yourself, accepting yourself, you're becoming a 360-degree being. So the shadow side for any kind of suffering is probably the way that we can learn the best, if we are aware, consciously aware, that this is food for growth. It's not just something we have to take and never be able to do anything with.
Thank you for that. That's a great answer, Jim.
Do you have any follow-up questions on that, Harrison?
I guess to me, the shadow side, it just seems like us, us as humans, the ego, the character that kind of develops as from that childhood trauma, let's say, or experience. Doesn't necessarily have to be negative. It could be positive. We get biases and we grow, and our character develops and advances from that. And sometimes it seems as though we lock into those things, and we don't know that some of those things should be cleaned. cleansed from our psyches and dealt with, you know, in terms of acceptance and forgiveness and things like that. I, that's my only comment, is that the shadow side to me really just seems like the dimension of your personality, that side that makes you crazy sometimes in a positive or negative way. It doesn't really matter, but anyway, it's something that I've been thinking a lot about. It's something that I think about regularly in terms of catalyst and experience that I have on a daily basis. And yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it here.
Yeah, well, I
Thank you.
think you're right. Most people, you know, are not conscious seekers of truth. So they're not aware of their spiritual journey. They're in the mundane world, the workaday world. And when this shadow side comes up for them, it may turn out to be violence against others or against themselves, lack of ability to accept and forgive themselves. It can manifest in all kinds of ways. And I think that it probably has some role that, you know, we know what various nations throughout the history of this planet go through, while they're trying to figure out, how, you know, what the purpose of being alive on Earth at this time is. And unfortunately, a lot of the population of our planet did not make the harvest to fourth density on other third density planets and had to try again. And they're here trying again. And it is sometimes a little harder the second time around or the third time around. But Ra assured us that eventually it would happen because there is an infinity of time for it to happen. But it, you know, could well be that there are very many people in various communities, nations around the world that are expressing this type of energy because they have not become consciously aware that there's a purpose for it, a spiritual purpose for it.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. You always had great questions.
Indeed. Yeah, thank you so much. I do see a couple other folks had some follow-up questions on that. Just wanted to let folks know we try to limit our Q&A sessions to about an hour, and I do see a number of questions in the chat window, so if we can just kind of monitor our own time and be thoughtful of others, would much appreciate it. Linda, did you have a question?
I had a question regarding the shadow side. Hi, Jim, by the way.
Hey.
In terms of the shadow side, is that something that's carried from incarnation to incarnation, or is that something that's healed on the inner planes?
Now that I could not tell you for sure. I think that the shadow side is something that could manifest in a certain way if you aren't able to use it during one incarnation. Then in the healing and review part of the incarnation, after you've dropped your body and walk into the light, that might be something as a signpost that was missed, and you could use it as another choice of learning in the upcoming incarnation. I don't think it's something that would cling to you like some sort of a disease. It's something that you would consciously choose.
What a great question. Does that answer your question, Linda? Great, thank you. James, did you have a follow-up question?
Yes, actually, it does have to do with the diseases so it pertains to session 23 of the Raw Contact.
James,
When,
is this
Dawn,
James, is this a follow-up question on shadow work, or is this a different subject?
really, it pertains to the piercing of Dawn's outer teachings when it pertains to the mental, social, physical, and philosophical diseases that is assailing the Egyptians.
If you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and put your question in the chat window. I'm actually taking questions in the order that they appear in the chat window. So the raising hand is just for follow-up questions to something that Jim was responding to. So thank you for your understanding. And I do believe Grace was next in the lineup. Grace, would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Yes, good morning. How are you guys?
Good morning to you.
I have a question here. I'm just going to read it. My understanding is that everyone chooses their incarnate life and family. I'm curious about the implications of someone who is profoundly mentally disabled. I ask this because my brother is severely autistic and nonverbal. I struggle to grasp the value this provides to the entity experiencing this incarnate experience. I can understand, however, the great catalyst that it provides to everyone around. Could you perhaps share your perspective on those who suffer from severe forms of mental health disorders?
Well, in general, I believe that Ross suggested that birth defects or problems of mental health disorders are also food for growth that we probably cannot understand in the third density. But if you look at what results from that of the family and friends being able to try at least to help a person in that condition, it might be, and I don't know if this is the case, that the person in a previous incarnation was able to give a lot of positive energy and service to others and needed to balance that, be able to receive. Now, that was true in Carla's life during the life path, that she was able to, as a child, give without expectation of return. And later on in her life, she needed to learn how to accept the love offerings of others. It's the balancing process. That may be what's going on. I don't know. But there is always a reason for it. Nothing happens by accident, as Ross said, and that we can learn from every experience that comes our way. And the more traumatic the experience is, usually the more learning that can come from it. So there's hope. So much that happens here we do not understand because there is that veil of forgetting. We forget why we programmed, what we programmed, and when we get here and have to experience it, it's just a mystery to us. But there's somewhere deep inside of us that we have this feeling that there is reason. And I think each of us, you look at the situation you're in and you realize that this is something you may not understand, but there is a reason for it. And just the best thing you can do, no matter what's happening, is open your heart in unconditional love and give all that you can. You can't do any more than that.
Yes, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your question.
What a beautiful question, and one that I'm sure is on a lot of people's minds and hearts these days. Did you have any follow-up questions on that, Grace?
No, that was great. Thank you. I was just curious about maybe how you would perceive that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Andre, did you have a follow-up question on this subject?
Oh, well, I had a follow-up comment because we had recently covered this topic, and in the Confederation Planets material was saying that basically what they had found was there was a lot of issues where they were sending people to Earth and to teach messages, but those messages were getting corrupted. And so what they found was that when they send someone who is, for instance, like autistic, they're doing the inner work, and there's no one that can interfere with that inner work. And so because they're doing that inner work, they're helping raise the vibration of the earth. And I talked to we had a guest person who had worked with autistic children for decades, and he was saying that like one of the things he noticed was that they were doing like different kinds of like chanting and humming and things like that, and that they had taken one who wanted to go to Texas and then to like the deserts in Texas, and then like they were just harmonizing for a long time, and that was just kind of tuning the vibrations of the planet in that space. And
Nice.
I included a quote in a session that's related. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Sarah, I believe you had a question. Would you like to ask?
Yes, hi everyone. Hope everyone's doing good. So my question that I posted is about the individual harvest. So we were reading that it's possible. I think it's possible. This is what I understood. It was for Genghis Khan that he was harvested before the actual time of harvest. Sort of what we're wondering was, is it possible? Is that possible with everyone, positive or negative? And if Jim has come across any examples of that in the material or anywhere.
I believe it is probably possible. I don't know if we have any records of exactly the people who have done that. There have been various types of spiritual awakenings, different degrees, where people have been able to become one with the Creator in their life experience. Usually when this happens in a positive sense, Ross suggested that that entity would desire to come back and not leave as they could and go into fourth density. They want to come back and be of service to others. because that's how they got where they are, and they see the need for that service on the planet. For negatively oriented entities like Genghis Khan, they are self-service, and they go on right away to go to the higher levels of the fourth density so that they can gain more power and continue to do what they were doing on planet Earth. So I'm sure it is possible, but we don't have any records of exactly what, who in the positive sense have done that. Although we do know that there are very many people that have shared spiritual awakenings in their books or their teachings and with other people.
So considering that an awakening is almost as if a shift in like it could mean moving to a higher density, but staying in the present density. Is that correct?
Right. It would require the awakening and activating of the indigo ray of intelligent energy that would then activate the spirit shuttle that would go into the violet ray of intelligent infinity. And that's where contact with the one infinite creator would occur. And each person would have a unique experience of that. It's not a general experience that everybody would have the same experience.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Thank you for your question.
There's a second question, but I don't know if anyone has a follow-up on that.
I see a couple hands up, and then I saw your second question, Sarah. That would be a lovely question to ask on your husband's behalf. I did see Diane's hand up. Diane, did you have a follow-up question on this subject?
Yes, you were talking about Genghis Khan and choosing to STO and be inhabited to STO. That kind of confuses me. I really can't understand why anybody would choose to be STO. It doesn't comprehend. It's been a confusion to me all the way down the line. Here is this very, very powerful person, and you're saying that he's gone on to fourth density to gain more power, but it seems like it's to gain more power merely for himself, for his own, whatever it is. What is that? Can you help me understand that? And are we born that way? Did we come in that way? Do we incarnate to be service to self?
In general, no, I don't believe that people incarnate to be service to self unless they've already made that choice in another incarnation. And they've come back to enhance that power. And the power of a service to self entity is something that is best perceived, I guess, by looking at how each feels about the creator. And a service to self entity has become aware of the creator in some fashion and has become aware that there is an ability to express that nature in the gaining of power over others and separation from others. Ross suggested that the light, the one infinite creator, does not blink at the light or the darkness, that each entity, the positive and the negative, have the right to use that light in whatever the way they choose. So they said that some there are who love the light and you see it as a picnic, being on a time of sharing and joy with each other. Others see a darker side there. They see another way of looking at their lives, and it is just something that seems to develop in a negatively oriented entity, that they see the perversities of the world, the suffering of others, as being something they want to partake in. And I don't think it's something that a positive entity could ever, perceive, because that's just 180 degrees out of the range of our thoughts. Rod did mention that negatively oriented entities, when they're contacted by negatively oriented UFOs, the UFOs look for the weaker minded entity. Now, I don't know if that means that they are not able to perceive the unity of the creation, because eventually, when they get around to the sixth density, they go through the fourth density of love, the fifth density of wisdom, and then they enter the beginning part of the sixth density. which requires the balance of love and wisdom, which is the seeing of all as the creator, then they are wise enough to know they can't go any further unless they reverse their polarity and begin to see everyone as the creator. And then they become positively oriented. And then by the mid-sixth density, the tool of polarization, both positive and negative, is given up. It is a way that entities throughout the creation have a way of polarizing their consciousness, like your battery on your car. There has to be a potential difference between the positive and negative poles, or your car won't start. So at some point, that is no longer needed. Back before the veil of forgetting was created by the Logos, the entities in third density did not have the veil. They saw themselves as the creator. There was no negative polarity, but it took them forever to polarize their consciousness enough to get into fourth density, because there was no reason to, not for love or not for fear. They all saw themselves as the creators. So eventually, when the veil of forgetting was put into place, that process paradoxically became more easily achieved. People could make the incarnation, the polarization into the fourth density within 125,000 year cycle, or 250,000, or eventually in the 75,000 year cycle. So that polarity became a great assistance to the creator in helping it to know itself better through both the positive and the negative polarities.
One other clarification, if I may. So I hear what you're saying. Is this person who is that so much STO, is hate a factor in this, or is it such an extreme self-love? Or something
You're
else?
talking about STS, service to self, instead of service to
Yes,
self.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Ra mentioned that sometimes a negatively oriented entity would use an entire incarnation to hone the blunt edge of hatred.
Okay.
That they would not do anything other than that. They would probably, that would just be their way of getting to where they want to go in that incarnation. And then maybe later they would use that hatred as a power to accelerate separation from others and control of others, which is the basic nature of the negative past.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. It's not an easy one, I know.
No, beautiful. Really appreciated that, and love the picnic metaphor for light and dark. It's always been one of my favorites. Sarah, would you like to go ahead and ask that second question on your husband's behalf? It's a beautiful question.
Thank you. So he's asking if Jim, if you were able to channel Ra today, what questions would you like to ask?
Oh my goodness. Well, we asked, or Don asked, well, all of us partook, but mostly Don asked 2,600 questions. And as that, considering, most of the questions I would think of have already been asked, I would just ask, I guess, what do you think about how the love and light of the creator is being expressed on planet Earth today? Could you give us an example of how this may be better done by groups that are having bellicose responses to each other? How can we help those groups that are having those problems? Something along that line, I guess.
What a beautiful question.
Thank you. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting since the channeling team still has been doing ongoing channeling sessions of Quo, the principle made up of both Ra at 6th density and the Tui at 5th density and Hatan at 4th density. So in a way, you're still asking Ra questions all the time, every month. But yeah, being able to ask a question directly of Ra, yeah, that's an interesting thought. And I did want to encourage folks who are here or who are watching, if you have questions that you would like to ask the entity known as Quo, you can send them in to LNL Research Chat. I believe you'll have to help me on this one, Jim. I think it's LL Research, contact LL Research.
It's contact@llresearch.org.
Great. Thank you. I knew it was something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have a fairly
so-
long list of questions that they receive, but always happy to receive more. Did you
Thank
have?
you. And I wanted to know, is there anyone specific to direct that email to, or do we just say this question is for Poe or something?
Yeah, that's it. That'll do.
That's good.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I want to go to the next question in the chat window. I believe I'm going in the order that they are in the chat window. If somehow I missed the order or something, somebody let me know. I'm trying to be present for the on mic conversation as well. Raquel, I think you had a question next.
I did. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hi, Jim. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. My question is a little bit of what everybody's been talking about. I'll just respond quickly to Grace. I parent a severely autistic child. And at the beginning, I wondered, what the heck is he doing here? Like, what's the point? He's not having a life experience. It's a struggle for him daily. It's just so hard for me, everybody around him, to communicate the whole nine. And it took me a few years, honestly, to get to the point to understand that this person, this entity, besides being a loving soul, was here to help everybody around him, to learn unconditional love. That was definitely one of the reasons he incarnated here. And he touches the lives of everybody that he goes around, from his caregivers, his grandma, his brother, his sister. His sister is having a difficult time with him, but it's a lesson for her to learn how to love him unconditionally, even if he's not the way that she thought he would be as a little brother. He has so many lessons that he is teaching everybody around him. I see, from the therapist to the teachers, everybody. It's amazing. And it took me years to recognize that, and finally coming to understand that that's one of the reasons. And I'll also throw in that Andre's probably right. Sometimes he's humming and doing some stuff and looking outside. I'm like, is he talking to a collective? Like, I have no idea. Sometimes I think he has somebody he's actually communicating with. So I just wanted to throw that in there. But my real question, Jim, is about polarity. And I always try to ask questions that relate to us on like day-to-day living, for me personally, and possibly others. And if you're a positively oriented person who is polarizing positively, but a catalyst comes up where it seems like you've made a choice that may be more service to self, and you do have to serve the creator because you're part of creation, right? Does that polarize you negatively if you make a choice that's more on the selfish side and you're like, well, it's not really hurting anybody, but this is a little selfish? But I'm just wondering, in terms of polarizing and losing polarity, how does that work in your day-to-day life when you make certain choices that may not seem like it's the best thing for everybody's good? Maybe it's more serving yourself a little bit, but it's not necessarily hurting anybody. Like, you're not going around throwing bombs or anything. It's just a little selfish thing. I just want to know, how does that work in terms of your polarization? Because I want to make sure that the steps that you're taking isn't like just like not pushing you forward. Our goal here is to graduate, to move to the next density, of course, the experiences, but how does that relate in terms of polarization when you make little choices that aren't, I stated it. So, help.
I think the most important thing in any of our choices is our intention when we made the choice. If you accidentally do something that you look back on later that it seems to you that is negatively oriented or service to self, I don't think that's something that really would reduce your polarity. What reduces polarity or increases it is your intention. And if you set your intention for whatever you do during the day, maybe in a meditation to start your day, or meditation throughout the day, or just a conscious choice throughout your daily experience. If you don't know what to do when you run into somebody that looks like they might need some help, you just ask, how can I help? You ask to yourself, or you ask them. But it's your intention. And that is what really makes the difference.
Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful. And I always set a good intention. It's just sometimes you don't want to do something that you feel like, oh, is this a negative thing? Because it may seem self-serving, but it's not generally negative. So it's good to know that the intention is what really makes the difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question.
It's a beautiful question. Thank you, Raquel. Aram, I believe you're next on the list. Did you have a question you'd like to ask?
Yeah, hi. Hi, Jim.
Hello again.
Um, so, okay, my question, I hope it's clear. It's not totally formulated in my mind yet, but the question is about the masculine and feminine principle. I noticed, in the tarot deck that Ra gave to the Egyptians, there's this alternating, you know, feminine, masculine principle. And I'm assuming that it has to do with the feminine and masculine in each of us. And sometimes I conflate the principles with gender. But I guess my question is how are those principles used in our own evolution, and how do we use those principles in dealing with catalyst? Is my question clear?
Oh yeah, yeah. Ross suggested that the matrix of the mind was the magician. It was the conscious mind. And the potentiator of the mind was the high priestess, the unconscious mind. When we pre-incarnatively choose our lessons for each incarnation, these are stored in the unconscious mind, where the high priestess has access to them. So the high priestess can help us in our incarnational choices by putting a bias on how we see our catalyst coming to the conscious mind. So the bias then is in the direction of the pre-incarnative choice that would be to be of service to others in some fashion. And the ability of the conscious mind to accept that and to see it and to respond to it as was hoped is facilitated by the feminine principle, the unconscious mind. So in general, I would say that's the way our incarnations move forward, by a cooperation between the male and the female principles. And as far as each of us during the incarnation, we both, whether we're biologically male or biologically female, we both have the qualities of male and female in us that allow us to move forward in our spiritual journeys. So that is basically I think the way it works.
Any follow-ups on that, Aram?
Yeah, I do have a follow-up. So generally, in some Eastern traditions, there's this idea that the masculine principle is more kind of does the reaching or the action, and the feminine principle is more receptive. Does that line up with the raw material, or is
That's exactly what Ross says.
Nice. That is a beautiful, profound question, Aram. Thank you for asking. Did you have any last follow-up questions on that?
Nope.
Yeah, thank you. That was a good question.
Yeah, thank you. James, thank you for waiting. Would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Yes. So it's kind of a trick question, but have you put together the puzzle piece of why does Ross state that the resonance chambers that are in the perimeters of the Great Pyramid of Giza that reverse the effects of aging, they are of no use to aid the Earth now?
Well, in general, Ross said that the pyramids did have a time when they were in harmony with the planetary vibrations. But over thousands of years, the 6,000 years since the Great Pyramid was built, that it's kind of like a piano out of tune. It doesn't work the way that it did previously. And so it just doesn't work anymore. And we don't know how to tune it.
Which may or may not be a good thing. Did you have any follow-ups on that, James?
Yes, so my follow-up question basically is the confederation of planets in service of the one infinite creator basically being this resonance chamber of light, which is basically known as that now. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the guardians that are mentioned, but they are now known as the Pleiadians. I'm sure they have a member on the Council of Nine that is ever active in guarding the quarantine that we have on Earth. I was wondering, because in the Pleiadian workbook, which is a channeled work and of Amora Kuan Yin, and she basically has many chambers of light that the Pleiadians give to Earth as service. And I have been asking them for a resonance chamber of light that reverses the effects of aging, and I've actually had profound effects of reversing the effects of aging, not only mentally, physically, but also spiritually. And I was wondering if you ever wondered about asking the Pleiadians for such services, or
No, I never
have you
heard.
encountered?
I've never heard of them, so we've never tried to channel anybody that, you know, like that. We don't know. I don't know about them.
It's a good question. Thank you, James. Elaine, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Hey, Jim. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for being here and giving us this opportunity. So I'm just going to read my question.
Okay.
Do you think or have any information about whether we are able to participate with fourth density or other density entities in our dreams? I recently had a dream where I was in a gathering and had the thought during my dream, oh my goodness, this I think this is a fourth density gathering. And was that just a dream, or could we meet other density entities in our dreams? Do you know?
Well, I don't have any channeled information from any of our sources that say that it's what exactly happens, but I think it's very possible. It's my personal opinion that we can, especially if you're a wanderer. I think that if you come from another density, the fourth, fifth, or most likely sixth, most wanderers are from sixth, that you can make contact with these entities in your dreams, and they can kind of give you information that you're seeking in your spiritual path at that time, probably in a symbolic form. So you will have to decode it yourself. They won't give you it straight out. That would be an infringement on your free will. So I think that many people do get these messages and are contacted. I think there's also a contact from our various guides, where I said we have a male, a female, and an androgynous guide, as well as our higher self. There are a lot of different sources of information that can give us inspiration about how to travel our spiritual journeys. So we have a lot of help. We're not alone in the metaphysical sense. You know, both we have fellow spiritual seekers, but we also have those in the higher realms that are very willing to help us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It's a great question, Elaine. Did you have any follow-up questions on that, Elaine?
No, but I just wanted to mention, since the gathering at CBEC, I've had an increase of dreams, and in my meditations, what feel like communications with entities that from my higher self to my guides to whoever those others were in my dreams. So
that's beautiful. I hope you're writing them down so that you can use them. You know, keep a dream journal for your future.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Elaine. I think that is about the end of the questions in the chat window. And Jim, I did have a couple of last things I wanted to follow up on before we wrap things up. As I mentioned at the beginning, there was one particular Quo session that you referenced and offered reflections on about 3 weeks ago, which I found really extra fascinating, and I wanted to ask you about. If you don't mind, I'm going to do a screen share and put it on just so that everybody can see it. There's a bit to go through. This was from October 17th, 1988. And the question that Carla was asking specifically, I think, are who are the entities that speak through our instruments that allows them to come in the name of Jesus the Christ? What is the nature of their makeup that allows them to do this? The whole session is really fascinating and well worth reading, but there's just a couple parts in particular, I guess, that I wanted to ask about in particular. Scrolling down here, they said, quote said, "We shall begin with our identity as manifestations. We are citizens of various planetary groups which have attained thought communication and are therefore able to communicate without the language barrier. This ability to share our concepts is fundamental to the Confederation. In the terms of your illusion, we live, have our various physical vehicles, and remain at this stage of our growth individualized, but aware and harmonized with those within the group especially, and by careful extension, all those of the Confederation. Each of us has our own areas of specialization. Some wish to speak to introductory students, some the intermediate, some the advanced, and some those of any level in a certain area of inquiry, such as healing. We are those which seek out the more experienced of pure. They pause and they try to tune Carla, I believe, to a deeper level of contact. They come back in. They say, we are those which seek the purer or more experienced channel with the aim of producing philosophically based inspirational material. The contact with this group has been rewarding for us, and we rejoice in the love of the one infinite creator, which binds each to the creator and to one another. This is our manifestation. It is, like all manifestations, a mask and an illusion, real in a manner of speaking, but of a limited duration. Such is the nature of manifestation. By its very nature, it calls to infinity. I'm going to scroll through this a little bit further. They talk a little bit about the relationship to the Christ. We say we come from a race which worships the Christ in a somewhat different way. They say we are those who worship the Creator and seek to serve the Creator. They say we are then the Holy Spirit or Comforter in this instrument's terms. We have appeared as many, many things, including angels. We appear in thought alone at this time and find that the mass of those who would seek our information prefer the, as this instrument would say, mythology of the spacecraft and the visitors from elsewhere to the equally valid manifestation and thought of the angels or the vision. Were we to appear as ourselves, those of the Confederation would look most variously, and we feel our impact upon your people is more proof against abuse of free will by our speaking through instruments such as this one and using the most desired metaphors and images concerning our inner nature and function in order that we may aid the most entities. It matters not who entities think we are. We attempt to satisfy the need for otherness, mystery, and solemnity, and to indicate our polarity in a clear way. After that, our dependence is upon the relationship we may forge with a carefully tuned instrument, and in that way, by collaboration, we offer what humble gifts we have. There is a third nature which shall disturb this instrument, although it has been intellectually considering this possibility for some time and has discussed it. Yet it will be sorry to hear from this contact that, in our opinion, we are completely within the instrument's mind. That is, we are allowed to speak because the instrument has made a pathway deeply enough into its own subconscious levels of thought that it is able to contact principles which lie deep within the mind and are influenced by the various energies of gravity in a spiritual sense, which flow rhythmically through the metaphysical portion of each individual, as well as the physiological portion. The study of the latter is called astrology. The study of the former could be called metaphysical astrology, and would reveal an inner universe of which the outer infinity of galaxies is but a hologram, which moves in a predictable fashion, allowing at various times the various life-giving, gem-like energies of the archetypal subconscious to flash through to the surface and produce each day differently, each moment slightly variously, the message of love and light. This instrument, therefore, may identify us with itself in the deepest reality of which we are aware. The infinity and reality lie not outside, but inside the non-thing, which is each entity's consciousness. All studies concerning an entity are studies in a mirror, the true self, the inner self being invisible. One learns of the inner self by looking very carefully in the mirror. Do you have any thoughts or reflections to share on this passage in which Quo seems to be suggesting this whole idea of coming from another planet is really just a metaphor they use to help us relate to them better, and that in reality they just exist in Carla's mind? Or in
Would you
the
like to
instrument's
scroll
mind?
down to the very end of that where I give my response?
I do have it here, yes, as a matter of fact.
So
I don't have it to share on screen, so I'll have to read it
go
here.
ahead and read it because I can't say it any better than I said it there.
You did say it beautifully there. So you said, and this was in the Camelot Journal from October 13th, almost a month ago. You said, I would like to share with my readers my great surprise at Quo's lengthy, intricate, and inspiring thoughts as to their identity, which I do not remember at the remove of 35 years since this channeling session took place. At the beginning of the session, when they mentioned that they were citizens of various planetary groups, one offering introductory information, another offering intermediary information, and one offering advanced information, I was expecting that they would list Hatan, Latwii, and Ra as the respective groups associated with this range of information. However, when Quo began to speak of how they were located within the deeper portions of Carla's mind and in harmony with her form of worship of the one Creator, and how she had given herself over completely to the service of the Creator, I must admit that I do not completely understand the manner of their means of utilizing Carla as a channel. I feel total positivity emanating from their revealing this mysterious process, but I am unable to expand upon their description of how they channeled through Carla. I will simply suggest that each seeker read these words of Quo, meditate upon them, and use them in any way that feels in harmony with your spiritual evolution. Is there anything you could add to that to enlighten us any further?
No, before Austin left for Seabrook, I shared that channeling with him, and he was also mystified. He said he was going to look at it and see what he came up with, and he hasn't let me know what he's come up with. I don't think he has a grasp totally of it either. It's something that, we know now who those Quo are, Hatan, Latwii, and Ra. But so far in the channelings that I've been going through of the Quo contact beginning in '86, January, it has not been stated yet that that is exactly who they are. It has only been stated that those of Latwii are part of it, and that they also have a fourth density entity that is occasionally there, named Hatan. Nothing has been mentioned about Ra. And so I think it's a process of evolution. After a period of time, we will discover that, because that is now what they always say they are. So why they said that then, you got me. I have no
It's a
idea.
beautiful thing. I mean, I think they said later on, we apologize for saying something that in the instrument's mind could basically invalidate all the work that she's been doing. But I didn't take it that way. I think if they are coming from a place at the deepermost level of consciousness, deepest most level of reality of the instrument's mind, then they are the creator. And if all is one and all is the creator, then I guess that would make sense. It's all
Yeah,
the
it
mind.
could well be a metaphor for, the deep conscious mind of every person has a conscious connection to the planetary mind, the racial mind, and the cosmic mind of the creator. So there's a pathway there that they could be a part of. They very likely are, far more than are we at the moment. So, that they may have been using a deeper metaphor to describe who they are, and later on they will go a little shallower and give us something we can understand, because understanding is not of this density, and I do not understand that.
They will definitely need to dumb it down a lot further for me to get it. But indeed, yeah, I mean, if we are all brain cells in a cosmic mind, as has been suggested, I guess that would all kind of make sense.
Yeah.
I wanted to share, thank you for sharing your reflections on it. It's something that has stuck with me in the 3 weeks since I read that and asking. There is one more thing that I wanted to deal with you. We did invite you here for questions and answers, but in reality, we have invited you here today to play a game that we are calling the Law of What? You were not able to join us at the Seabrook gathering with Austin and Gary and Trish a few weeks ago, but when we were there, we did actually have the pleasure of doing a live Q&A with them, and at the end of the Q&A, we did play a little game with them based on the idea of pop quizzes. Pop quiz, of course, was a term that Carla used to refer to the little tests that we get each day to see if we have learned the lessons we plan pre-incarnatively to help us grow spiritually. So today, to wrap up this session, I'm going to ask you, Jim McCarty, 3 multiple choice questions to test your real knowledge of the Law of One. See if you can get 2 out of 3 correct. If you can get 2 out of 3 correct, you get to return to your home density.
You mean not, there are correct answers?
For these, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if not, you will just have to repeat third density. So no pressure. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. So clearly, you know a fair bit about social memory complexes from other planets. But how much do you know about social media corporations from this planet? I'm going to ask you 3 questions about social media, see how many you can answer correctly. They're all multiple choice, so it's just a B, C answer. Okay? First question. Which other internet giant owns shares of Facebook? Is it A, Microsoft, B, Google, or C, L&L Research?
I would say probably B, Google, but I have no idea.
Correct answer, in fact, is Microsoft. In 2008, Microsoft bought shares of Facebook worth $240 million at that time, worth 1.3 billion years today. A good return on investment, one could say. Let's see how you do on the second question. Second question, which well-known third density entity issued a challenge on CNN? Which well-known third density entity issued a challenge to CNN to see whose Twitter feed could get 1 million followers first? Was it A, Ashton Kutcher, B, Oprah Winfrey, or C, Donald Trump?
I would have said Elon Musk. But, Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah Winfrey, good guess, but correct answer is in fact Ashton Kutcher, who I don't even know if you know who that dude is, but
I've heard the name. Couldn't tell you a thing about him though. I assume it's a guy.
Happened in 2009, and apparently he got 1 million Twitter followers before CNN did. Oprah Winfrey and Donald Trump both joined Twitter in 2009, but took a while to get 1 million followers. Let's see, you got one more question. Let's see how you do on this one.
So far, I'm striking out.
That's okay. We're all coming back to third density. It doesn't matter. Third question. What was Instagram's name before it was changed to Instagram? Was it A, See Me, capital S-E-E, capital M-E? Or was it B, Photo Ops, capital F-O-T-O, capital O-P-S? Or was it C, Bourbon, capital B-U-R-B-N?
Well, I'm going with Photo Ops.
Good guess, but incorrect. The correct answer is, in fact, bourbon. Interestingly enough.
I struck out.
The inventor of Instagram apparently really liked scotch and bourbon, and that was the
really
for it. Go figure.
Well,
See Me and Photo Ops have since been taken by other companies, but the name.
Do you know what the most expensive bourbon is?
No.
Pappy Van Winkle. I know that because I'm from Kentucky, bourbon country.
Of course, local one. Nice. Well, thank you so much for playing with us. And I guess you are stuck here in third density until next time when we come back together.
Well, I'm having a good time. Why not?
Good. We love you much. Was there anything you wanted to say in closing thoughts?
Well, I just thank you for your questions. They're always so much fun. I couldn't think of better questions than ever than the ones I get here, and they're just so inspiring, so heartfelt, so authentic. And I thank you all for being here and being with me and helping me do what I do, so I can help you do what you do. We're all seeking together. We are one.
Love you so much, Jim. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for.
Thank you so much.
Love you, Jim.
Love you all too. Looking forward to next time.
Next time. Bye.
Oh, there you are. Good to see you. Take care, you all.
Until
Love
next
you.
time.
Thank you.
And love and light of the one infinite creator. Adonai. Namaste.
Bye-bye.